Hello, everyone. How are you doing? And welcome to GEG Mississippi event. This hangout, we have some great educators, and we will be talking about Google Classroom. I am the leader of GEG Mississippi, Dr. Will. I am here today with Refrans Davis, instructional technologist. I'm also here with Sarah Thomas, who is a GCT doctoral candidate, teacher, instructional technologist, app builder, all around super awesome superhero. And with us joining us as well is L. Deamport. And we're going to be talking again about Google Classroom. So welcome everyone. How are you doing?
Excellent. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
Yes, awesome. I appreciate it. So over the summer, Google Classroom came out. It was a great buzz, and I know everybody was trying to get their hands on it, and it was like, woo, when can I get on it? And then finally it released, and then there was some bugs and wasn't necessarily what everyone sort of hoped for, but it has started to improve and get better, and I'm a fan of it, and I definitely want to implement it in my district to the next level. So let's just begin. So there's a lot of LMSs out there with Haiku and Edmodo, Blackboard, Schoology, etc. And now Google Classroom steps on the scene, which isn't an LMS, more of a content management system. But why Google Classroom over those other portals?
So can I add my 2 cents first?
Go ahead.
I actually would not choose Google Classroom over those other portals. I would do Google Classroom in addition to it. I think that those other portals offer some other things that right now Google Classroom doesn't. And if you're used to some of those other tools, then you don't want to stop using them. Like in our district, we're rolling out Canvas, but we're also teaching how to use Google Classroom more for Drive management, because it allows you to do the things with Google Drive as you integrate it into your class that the others don't allow you to do. And I think that it's important. I think it's important to use that.
Sarah?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what Refrans was saying. Currently, I use Edmodo and I use Google Classroom, and I like Google Classroom. The feature that I appreciate the most is the make a copy feature, where it automatically, places a copy of whatever assignment in everyone's drive, and they have the option to do that. So I like that, and I heard that some add-ons can do that as well, but I just like how streamlined it is. But I still do use Edmodo for like the apps and things of that nature. They work out very well.
Elle?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you both. I don't think I would replace. I think Edmodo, I currently use Edmodo too, but I like the whole feature of it. It's integrated with Google Drive, the Google Classroom. It just keeps it all in one place. And I use it more so for formal assignments that I actually grade, and I use Edmodo more as like an online space where my students can socialize and kind of share their thoughts and share more things that are happening kind of in their lives and things like that. So that's how I keep them two separate, because they need to learn how to navigate. I think in the real world, you have your Drive for the serious work, and you have the Edmodo for more like informal work. That's just in my world, in my classroom.
I love it and recommend it and want to use it because from what I do in my job, I can teach teachers how to use Google Classroom in 45 minutes and never have to worry about that again. From there, it'll be more about coaching them on how to use it in a blended learning environment. So it's, for me, the easiness of it, how it's well integrated with Google Drive and all of that is just awesome. So what are the advantages? I know some of you have mentioned working with Google Drive and whatever, but what are the advantages of using Google Classroom, and what are the disadvantages or drawbacks?
For us, it's been a huge advantage because prior to this, we've been using the G-Class Folders add-on that you can do with spreadsheets, so that our teachers could basically create a folder structure. Google Classroom to me is like G-Class Folders for dummies. Like, it literally does that for you. So you don't have to go through doing a form to collect all the names and doing the group to collect all the names and add them all in. It manages that process. I also like the fact that once students click an assignment and they submit, you can resend feedback and open it up for them to do it again. and they don't have to go back into Classroom to resubmit it. They can actually just submit it from right there in Documents. And then I watched the video that Jenny Margera did with what was it, Doctopus and Flubaroo. It was and how they work with Google Classroom. Like, if we are a Google Apps district and our kids are using it, and we have teachers that have gone paperless, and it's like it doesn't make sense not to use that tool to manage what they do.
Mm-hmm. Sarah?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. This week we have been, in my class, writing argumentative essays, and we put them out through Google Classroom. The students all did their own argumentative essay, and using the add-ons with that was just phenomenal. Like, one that we've been trying out was Kaizena, and thanks to everybody on the panel for your for your feedback on Kaizena, like how it could be used. But we used it, and the fact that it integrated so seamlessly with the assignment that had been posted on Google Classroom, it was a huge time saver. It was a little glitchy, but the concept was definitely there, and it was great.
Hale?
I like its simplicity. My students were just since they use Edmodo and they know how to use Edmodo, using Google Classroom was like an instant. I didn't have to teach them anything. They figured it out on their own, and they were so surprised. You should have seen them when I showed them, because we don't use Google Drive. This is our first time using Google Drives, even though we're a GAF district. This is the first time I introduced Google Drive to them, and when I went to their Google Drive, you should have seen the reaction on their faces when they're like, oh, my Google Classroom assignment is on here, without me having to take that extra step to upload. I was like, isn't that neat? So they got to see that in action, that it's all in one place. And for me, it's just so great, because if you know anything about gifted kids, or any kids for that matter, they're just so disorganized and they're scatterbrains. And so to have all that in one place for my kids was like, oh, it's a beautiful moment when that all came together.
Okay, so you've mentioned some of the things that you've been doing, and when I think about how Google Class can be used, and there's several ways, and immediately, I don't know why, but immediately I start thinking about the blended learning environment, and then there's several models to that. But how have you been using a Google Classroom? Has it been part of an overall sort of blended learning instructional model, or has it just been a way to integrate how content is delivered in your classroom?
I guess for us, I don't know who's going first. I guess for us, we started teaching it, training at the beginning of the summer, as soon as it became open. And it was kind of like our teachers kind of dabbling with it. And then more of them have started adopting it themselves, and they use it to really blend in the classroom, but not even just the blended learning component. It is because they do so much with Chromebooks and with sharing documents back and forth with Drive, until for them not to have to go individually set up classes and not have to go to create those extra steps in order to share with their students. It just made sharing so seamless. What I'm working on now is a plan to work with campus administrators. I don't know what y'all do for lesson plans, but here our teachers turn them in, and they turn them in weekly and sometimes bi-weekly. But typically what our principals and some even out of town are doing is they're having teachers email them, even though they're GAF districts, because they want to get that email alert, like from Microsoft Excel. Through email, but they're doing like Microsoft Excel to do their lesson plans. And so we're trying to get them to lead from the top and to use Google Drive to have teachers collaborate and do their lesson plans and create classes for their teachers in Google Classroom and have their teachers submit that way. It does two things. Number one, it takes care of them not having to get that dang email every week. Number two, it also helps those teachers who are uncomfortable with learning the new technology to learn how to use it, and then we can help them more with implementing it into their classroom. But I think it's important that if you're doing this with a campus or with a school, that's something that can easily start from the top.
Ale?
We are a GAF, like I mentioned before, we're a GAF district, but I don't think many people know how to use Drive with their students. And I was one of those teachers. I know how to use it, but I haven't taken that step. As a teacher, I use it. As a professional, I use it. But I didn't take that step till this year to use it with my students. And so I think a lot of teachers are in that same boat with my district. Some know how to use it, some prefer not to use, just the features that we have available with Google. And we just need to push them on board. But I think they would be open to it if they knew how to do it. But I think it would be a great advantage, especially for our students, because I know our middle school has just gone one-to-one, and you can talk more about that, Will. But
Mm,
that's how my former students who are now middle schoolers, I said, oh, do y'all like the Chromebooks? Like, yeah, we love it. We love making things. And I'm like, are you guys doing Google Classroom? And then they look at me with a blank stare. I'm like, okay, so I know they're not using Google Classroom at the middle school, but I know it would be an asset for all students, even elementary where I teach, would be a great asset to teach kids how to work in that online space. And it's already available, so why not? That's my objective, to try to push more teachers on, especially my team. I'm gonna probably start small and get my gifted team on board, and then just try to move our way, kind of branch out in our school sites and see how many people would be willing. Because I don't think many teachers know about it, even though we are a GAP school district. They just don't know about it.
Sarah?
we've been using Google Classroom since pretty much the first day, but we still don't have all of our kids in. We are a GAF district, but they're turning on accounts for all the students right now. So we still have about 4 kids. So that kind of limits us because the classroom is set up in teams, and the students do work together, and they found a way in Google Classroom to kind of share the documents among themselves, with one person being responsible to turn it in. So so that fact has been a little bit limiting, but overall it's been phenomenal. So I'm very excited about recent upcoming developments, I should say, to Google Classroom, and hopefully they'll turn on a feature where you don't have to be in the same domain necessarily, because all of those other kids who don't have the GAF account, they still have their own Google Drive. So it would be great to be able to share like that.
No doubt, no doubt. But the way to get around that, and what we actually did, was I just created email addresses for teachers. Well, not all teachers, but since L is actually piloting it and there's another teacher who's interested, I just created them an email address on the same domain as the students. And so then that way she was able to go ahead and use Google Drive with her students, and let's kind of see how effective it is. So you're using it, you're getting information out there, you're getting the feedback, you're grading, you're disseminating information, resources, etc. So what has been your students' experiences? What sort of feedback have they given you? Sarah?
The students, they really love it. When we tried it out in the classroom the very first day, and they were just so excited about it. Of course, they wanted to play with it a little bit before we actually jumped in and did any work. So it was good to kind of give them that opportunity to just kind of, tinker around with it. But they've really liked it for the most part.
Franz?
I actually went into a classroom. One of my teachers, I support 10 different campuses, and I happened to catch a tweet where he tweeted that he hated Google Classroom and he'd never use it again because they had a mishap that he put in the assignments and the students couldn't see them. So I went into his classroom, and while he did it, it was a math class. It was great. What he was doing was a collaborative activity or whatever, but I was able to troubleshoot it like right then and there, and it was just a weird glitch that the kids needed to refresh in order to see the assignment, and it was that quick and to fix it. But the kids were excited because and it wasn't about the Google Classroom that excited them. It was about being able to blend the online learning and collaborate, and that opened a door that they had not previously done. So that was our thing. Now, I will tell you this, because you asked for drawbacks earlier and I didn't give you one. I'm going to give you one. If you're looking for Google Classroom to be the LMS and you've been using something more robust like Edmodo, Schoology, Canvas, or even Blackboard, you're going to be disappointed, because it literally right now is create classes, share things, very light communication. If your students don't have email turned on like ours do not, they can't message you back and forth. Everything is public unless it's communicated on an assignment, and then that's between the teacher and the student. But it's you kind of have to weigh it in between what's important to you. All the stuff in the other LMSs, or just simply collaborating through Drive.
Hmm. L.
Well, my students, I have a, it's not difficult to get my students to buy in because I just make everything so like wow. The fact that I told them we're going to probably be one of the first elementary classes to use Google Classroom. I mean, that immediately just like choo, they just love that kind of stuff. Be the first and the pioneers, and then of course the level of excitement that you bring as a teacher. Like I'm just very rah rah because you kind of have to be like that in an elementary setting. Like when the first student like submitted her first assignment, I gave her a high five. I was like, "We made history today!" So we make a huge deal out of things like that. And you kind of have to be like that in elementary. But they love it. They absolutely loved it. They love working online. And actually, we're hearing a lot from our leaders, administration, that we need to get these kids working on the computer because the park is going to be strictly on the computer, and they have to do everything. They can't. I mean, they can have paper to brainstorm, but they're trying to push all students to start working in those digital spaces. So to them, it's like perfect because my kids, like I said, they just adapt just like that. You give them an assignment instead of me giving them a piece of paper to jot down. I tell them you have the option, but they prefer to do it all in Google Classroom, and it makes it so much more exciting when they do things like change the font and depending on the assignment, if it's appropriate, change the color and add images and things like that. So they love that because they're very visual learners, and so it works well with my students. The buy-in, no problem at all, and then also the streamlined of it, and they just love it.
Well, who does Google Classroom work best for? Knowing that it is not a full-on LMS at all, but is there a grade level, a subject area that Google Classroom will work best for, or is it just a matter of what the teacher instructional needs are or how they plan to implement it?
All grade levels. If you're sharing with Drive, you need to use Google Classroom. Bottom line. It's going to save you time and energy. Just do it. I mean, our kindergartners have Google accounts. So if our kindergartners can if a kid can log into a Google account and you're sharing documents back and forth with your class, then you need to be using Classroom to help manage that process.
Sarah?
Yeah, I would definitely second that. Like in our district, then the GAF accounts are being turned on for grades 3 through 8, but I never thought of kindergarten. But that is definitely something that can be, that would be great to try, and even if they can't type, and log in their own accounts, then their parents can, and get information that way. So so all grade levels, I would second that.
Elle?
I'm in agreement too. All grade levels and all subject areas too. Because even me, I was thinking like, well, how am I going to use it with math? How would I use it to show like their understanding of math? And I saw this wonderful YouTube video. I can't remember where I found it, where the teachers were making them take pictures of like the posters they actually made in class to show their thinking process. And then they created a Google Doc where they imported those pictures. The children did all this, the students. They imported their pictures of like their group poster, whatever it is they're working on, and they had feedback on another column. And I thought that was amazing because I just never think in that frame. I'm always like thinking like, oh, it's always writing. It's easier to do it with writing or language or English. But you can also branch out to other subject areas and bring in all those other pieces to all those components for that too. So yeah, I would agree. And it's up to the teacher to decide how far you want to take it and how much you want to collaborate.
Well, see, Franz, I see you nodding over there. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Because math is like the ultimate. I mean, there's so many different add-ons and docs, especially for upper level math. And heck, doing a Google drawing with kindergartners where they can actually piece together those posters collaboratively in a drawing. I mean, you can create that experience with Classroom through Drive. I mean, Classroom is like the conduit to manage the process. The process is still the same on what they do in Drive with everything else. So absolutely, if they can go get in kit pics, they can do Google Drawing and Google Docs, whatever the case may be.
Awesome, awesome. Now we're getting to the last question here, and again, I thank everyone for being here and sharing this knowledge. But being what I do in Reflons, and I do the same thing as well with Sarah. You get to working with teachers, and you'll have a teacher who technology is as easy and simple as breathing to this person. And then you have those teachers who are upset that the chalkboard was taken away. And knowing that you are working with teachers of sort of different technology needs, levels, and understanding, but they still may be curious about Google Classroom, particularly as more schools adopt Google Apps and become Google Apps districts. What do you say to those teachers to sort of encourage them to take the leap?
Well, our teachers are a little bit fortunate. Our district actually purchased lynda.com for all of our teachers and students. And so for us, lynda.com has an excellent intro video to Google Classroom, but more importantly, they have an excellent series of videos for Google Drive. And so for those teachers that are really hesitant, we share the links for lynda.com's Google Classroom and then also Google Drive, because they can go learn little small things on the go. And then if they're ready to implement and they're still afraid, they have us. So we have district specialists, which is what I am, like you. They have us to go in and help with that process. We have other teachers that help with that process. And then it's not so scary. Right now it's just about getting them to take the leap to use technology, period. So I personally would start them with Google Classroom, and then with a document, a simple collaboration, and go from there. You just got to give them the little bite and let them latch on.
Little morsel. Elle.
Yeah, I agree. I think you need to start small with any, even with the one-to-one, start small with one tool that they can play around with first, give them that support. And then I think when you show them and when they see the excitement that the students, because I know, at least when I taught in the summer program, I taught the technology components. When the kids go back to their regular homerooms and say, "Oh my gosh, we did this in technology class and it was so cool," and then the teachers start listening, and then you see the student come back during their regular homeroom time to see me like, "How did you do this again?" And then they go back. I'm like, "Well, go show your teacher how you did this, okay?" And then to have the students as the ambassadors almost is what I like. My push for my students this year is to show them show, because they're already excited about it and they want to share it. So I'm going to try to use my students, my little tech leaders, to show the homeroom teachers, like we're trying to do a project with third grade. They're trying to make movies. That's one of their Common Core standards. So naturally, I'm going to get my highest ability, the ones who love technology. I'm like, well, it's your show. Plan it how you want to do it, and you're going to go into that classroom and teach that third grade class how you made your podcast or how you made your movie, and walk them through the process, and they're going to wear their little badges. So I think if you show them that, if you see that the students could lead that, then why not try it? It's going to improve learning. It's going to get the buy-in. And then I think that's my goal, at least for this year. And hopefully it works out. It's going to be a little messy, but I have to warn them. It's going to be messy, but that's just how learning is. It's not going to be streamlined. So hopefully it'll work out.
Sarah?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself, but I just want to second what Ellen and Franz were just saying. I think that there's a lot of different ways to kind of jump in there. I would say in low-risk situations like this, then just kind of experiment and just try it out. Just jump in feet first, and you might want to get a couple of kids to test it out. With a very small group of kids, maybe 3 or whatever, and then just try it out, see how it works, and then from there keep going. And at the same time, I love the idea about the student ambassadors. We have a repair squad at my school, and they kind of help the teachers with technology, things of that nature. And also, like Rafonz was saying, just kind of reach out to your PLN online or face-to-face. There's so many great resources out there on YouTube as well. So yeah, lots of great ways to get started.
Awesome, awesome. Again, thank you all for coming today and sharing your expertise. And for those who are watching this, next month we'll be having another GEG Mississippi Hangout, and the topic will be Google Teacher Academy. So be on the lookout for there. We're going to have GCTs on who will talk about the process and their experiences as a Google certified teacher and give you some information and all that good stuff. So again, thank you everyone for being on the panel, and have a great one.
Bye. Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.